good, I guess, afternoon now. We're going to go ahead and call the Redistricting Committee to order. A physical quorum of members is physically present. I will entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to the coronavirus to participate via video or teleconference.
Second.
Moved by Member Wachowski, seconded by Member Chaplin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you. Move on to approval of the April 6th minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Member Chaplin, seconded by Member Ozog. Any questions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Public comment? Do we have any public comment?
We do not, sir.
Okay. Okay, Chairman's remarks. You know, I wasn't planning on having this meeting, but there's been some concerns raised on the consultant that had been talked about in our previous two meetings. Member Chaplin had called the state's attorney and said they had a problem with him. Again, I wish you had called or said something when it first came up, because as I have said from the beginning, I want this to be a fair, open, and transparent process. So if at that point you had any concerns, we would have gone on to RFP. So with that, that's why I called this meeting. Again, I want to make sure this is open and fair and everybody agrees on who is going to be doing the maps and helping us. So that's why we called this meeting. Had several talks with the state's attorney, talked to him this morning. We came to an agreement on some things. So we'll talk about that. We're going to go out for RFP, request for proposal. What we want is the state's attorney had brought somebody forward. We didn't know his qualifications, if they have done a map, anything like that. Let's get some qualifications in from some people, work with the state's attorney's office to see who has the qualifications to do this, who can do it. And I just don't want to bring somebody in who's never done this before, you know, hasn't had, you know, has anybody else has an issue with. I want it all open in front. So we're going to put it out. Jason's going to work with the state's attorney's office. I talked to State's Attorney Berlin today. They're going to work with the state's attorney's office to come up with some questions. Hopefully we can get that out maybe this week, and maybe get it out and have somebody selected hopefully by then. Okay, does that sound good to everybody? Member Wachowski?
We're going to get somebody who specializes in election law. Is that what we're looking at? I mean, obviously, we're going to reach out to various attorneys who we think are able or experienced to do this and see if they're, like an RFP is normally done in transportation. If we know there's certain people that do this, we'll send them out do you want to participate in this? Is that the way you foresee this?
That's the way. I mean, I think we want people who have had experience doing this before. I don't think, especially what's going on this time, I think we need somebody with experience that's done mapping. You know, I'm not sure if we want to bring somebody in, this is their first, you know, go at it. I mean, that might not be as good, but we don't know. We might not get, I mean, again, we have to see what people's qualifications are. I mean, that would be the
attorney in the past. The last map we did, we just had a special counsel. Why are we doing a state's attorney this time? And it is something we have to do. Because does it make a difference to us if it's a special assistant state's attorney or just a regular counsel that we're hiring through the committee?
Well, Member Wachowski, in order for anyone to give this county board legal advice, they must be a special assistant state's attorney, which means that ultimately their selection is at the discretion of the state's attorney. That's his constitutional duty and his obligation. I will be clear, and this is from a few different places, the county board does not have the authority to hire its own attorneys to give them legal advice.
And that's the state's attorney's opinion. There's a reason why I think the county board had the foresight for the senior member to be on here, because in 2001, State's Attorney Burkett did not appoint a special state's attorney. In 2011, State's Attorney Berlin did not appoint a special assistant state's attorney. Because we were in agreement with them, I didn't, on the selection of the previous consultant, I didn't question that. Figured no harm, no foul. But now that we don't agree, again, there's some give and take on that. Again, what's legal advice, moving a line or not? It hasn't been in the past. So that's where the yin and yang is right now. That's why we're going to work together to find the best person.
Yes.
Member Jeff.
Thank you, Chairman. So regarding the process, I thought, because I know that Bob Berlin is the legal counsel for the county board, and I believed he was the one that had picked our former representation. That's why I went to him, I didn't mean to supersede you. I really thought I was really thought I was doing it properly to tell him, hey, the Democrats have some concerns. So I didn't mean to supersede you or you know, go above you, but I really thought I was doing I was following the right chain. So, but regardless, I'm glad we're here today. I think putting it out for bid is a good idea. And yeah, we'll see who responds, and hopefully we'll get somebody with experience that everybody can agree on.
Yeah, and just to respond, Member Rose, before, we are behind now. So, I mean, we were planning at the last meeting to start seeing some maps, at least put up the old map at the end of this month. So we're a little bit behind, but I still think we can work with it. Member Rose?
I'm unclear about why we have to do an RFP when it appears that State's Attorney Berlin already had chosen someone, which Mr. Lufthansa that we were discussing, or was at our last meeting. So I'm not clear on the selection process. Is this based on qualifications? Is it based on cost, or?
No, because cost is if they're appointed a special state's attorney, they're paid a flat rate hourly that every other special assistant state's attorney. It's not cost. Again, when I had discussions with the state's attorney, brought somebody forward, I didn't know who they were, what experience they had, if they had previously had any experience. The firm was not from the DuPage area. Again, I want to make sure that we're all in agreement. It's the county board and the state's attorney. So we get the best person. I didn't want somebody to be brought on that none of us knew and didn't feel comfortable with. And again, as you said, the Democrats, I even want this more because of my status in the Republican Party. I need this to be squeaky clean and transparent. That's what I want it to be.
So what happens if Mr. Berlin chooses somebody and we still object to their background, qualifications, et cetera?
Well, hopefully we're going to get several firms, and that we'll come to an agreement on if four firms come up and he doesn't like A and B and we like B, and or he likes A and we like A and B, we can come to an agreement on that.
So it would be discussion versus a vote, and then we would vote on the final approval.
Right. I mean, I'm calling it a consultant right now, but again, that's something we can get over. We got to see how many people come in and then figure it out.
What is it called? Are we hiring a consultant or are we hiring an attorney?
My understanding of how this would work is that this is going to be a vetting process where there will be someone from the state's attorney's office and someone from the county staff that's going to sit down, and we'll take a look at who responds, that they're qualified. We'll look at their qualifications. We'll go over probably, someone will have to explain to them that there's sort of the flat rate. A lot of firms don't bill at a flat rate normally, where they bill at a rate far in excess of what the typical special assistant rate is. And then I don't believe necessarily that the board, this committee will even have to, I guess we'd like to take the committee's temperature.
We will agree on it. And we'll get the same, when the RFP goes out, we get responses. I'll make sure that every member of the committee, I'm going to actually send to every member of the county board, sees who's been brought forward so everybody can have a look at it. And then we can agree on if there's 4 firms and somebody's their A pick and it's our B pick or whatever, that we come together on one firm or one consultant, whatever we want to call it.
Okay, Mr. McCarthy just referenced, sorry if I can speak about this. He just referenced that the state's attorney and county staff would be discussing how to put this RFP out, and I assume the responses that you receive. First of all, what's the time period that the RFP would be out there? A couple of weeks, 10 days?
Well, I said earlier, I'd like it out by the end of the week. I sent Jason some questions that I had from committee on things we're looking for. I think he has to run that by the state's attorney's office. I don't think it's going to be, I think it's maybe going to be a dozen questions the state's attorney has. It's not going to be like a really extensive, you know, what's your previous experience, election law, previous experience in redistricting, who have you done? Have you done counties? Have you done towns? What have you done? You know, experience.
How are you going to decide who it's advertised to or solicited?
That is a fantastic procurement question that
I can tell you it's a very specialized area of the law.
Right. There's not many people who do this.
What we'll probably end up doing is maybe we'll get the Bar Association lists.
Okay. And will we be able to recommend people that we'd be interested in?
That's a procurement side of the process.
Sure, I'm sure an email from you saying we're going out to RFP is, please, if you're interested, please, respond. I mean, that's perfectly fine.
Can we send that to you, Jason, that you would then send it to various attorneys that we were interested in?
Yes, I believe I could do that. I don't.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
If anybody knows of somebody who does this, yes, please send their name forward and make sure they get the information.
Okay, and then going back, Connor, you said state's attorney and county staff would be looking at this, and who would be the county staff?
It's a great question.
Jason. Imagine it would be me. Yeah.
Jason. Okay.
Yeah, Jason's our staff for this, so and he's been great working with it. And then there is another. Is there any questions? There is another item we looked at. Was we had been getting emails from different organizations, but maybe our GIS might be able to do some of this for us. So we had, I think Tom Rickard was on.
He is on the call.
Okay, so maybe Tom can explain some of the information he has gotten about remapping software and some other stuff that we might be able to do some stuff in-house too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, what ESRI has is they have a redistricting application, and basically what the application does is it utilizes the PL94 data, which hasn't been released, and looking at the census, it looks like it's September 30th that data will be released. But what it does is you can take the basic tracks and create, say, how many districts you want. You plug in, the 6 or whatever districts that you need, and then you can move the lines. And as you move the lines, say District 2, you move District 2 line to the west, District 1 to the west as well. The population that comes from that PL94 data is then redistributed, so you can actually look at what the proposal of the population being distributed from one district to another. And then you can actually do a proposed layer. People can take a look at it. We can create a website where the committee members can take a look at various plans as it goes through. And then once you commit that area, you can commit it to a actual final plan. So it's a real nice software where you can see redistribution of population. You can also add demographic information. So as those lines move, you can actually see the actual demographics move as those districts are being proposed and moved and redrawn.
Okay. Tom, I had a couple questions. Is there a charge for that?
It is an application that we'll have to, purchase, but you can buy different sections of it. They're full. The basic redistricting tool is very minimal, but then you can get into where you can, create it and share it out to either committee members or even organizations or even to the public. So I can send a video showing the different, levels of the overall redistricting application, but there's certain portions you can purchase. You can buy a small portion or the full-blown large portion, but there will be a cost. But GIS, we have the funds to bring that in.
And that might help us with some firms that maybe don't have the software. Maybe they'll be able to utilize our software.
Yeah.
One more before I get to the rows up. The question I had, you said it had the census data in there. What about the American Community Survey that everybody's talking about, the ACS numbers?
Yeah, we already have that. And if they, if it's, you have to use the current ACS, we already have that information. And Esri is already poised to put that into the application, so that will be available to us.
Okay.
And just let you know too, when we worked with, when I started in 2011 is when I came on board, and we worked with the consultant, I think back then. And when you're looking at Tiger data is not as accurate spatially as parcel information. So when we started working with him, we had some of the boundary lines of the tract census data going through, say, apartment buildings. So we had to even fine tune with them and get those districts once you get the final county board district, so it follows along, say, parcel lines or section lines. So there's a little spatial adjustment that has to occur in the final process.
Member Ozog first, and Member Dessart.
Tom, just to clarify, what I think, did you say that in our last meeting, the ACS data was from 2017?
I'd have to look the latest ACS data, but usually they update that, you know, on an annual basis.
Oh.
But I can look real quick and see what's available.
So it should be definitely post 2018 is what we'd be working with.
Yeah.
So it'd be a pretty good approximation.
Yeah.
Okay. And could you explain PL 94? I wasn't clear. Is that related to the ACA?
It's yeah. Well, that's the data that the census is going to have out that they populate for redistricting. That's the actual demographic data that you need to use for the redistricting. You have the spatial data, which is the census tracts and the census blocks, and the PL 94 data is the population and demographic data that sits behind that is, you know, that's joined or related to those tracks, those features that are on the map.
So my question now is, if they say that that's not going to be released until 9/30/21, are we allowed to do approximations based on the ACS, or are we not able to do final redistricting until after this official census information is available, because that will certainly impact petitions, etc.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be something, maybe someone from the state, you know, that has that clarification. What I'm hearing from the folks at Esri who are working with the state, and, you know, because the actual state is using the Esri product as well, they're saying that they're telling them to use the ACS data right now.
So theoretically, a candidate could start, say the date is September 4th, that you can start circulating petitions. Assuming that they live in the same district, they would be able to circulate those petitions. But then you could end up with a problem with petitioners that they would not be within the district.
Yeah.
So I guess that's to be clarified.
That's the main problem we have with not getting the census numbers.
Right.
Do we do it maps on the ACS numbers? And can we pass a tentative map? And then when we get the census, can we come back and amend that map and use the census numbers so we're legally covered? That's a question you guys will have to find out. Right?
That's an answer that remains unclear. This has never happened before, though I can tell you from my general reading of it, the statute doesn't appear to complement or sort of contemplate do-overs outside of a court order. So we're in uncharted territory right now.
I mean, that was I'm sorry, remember to start, go ahead before we discuss more.
Thank you. Tom, I was just wondering, do you have a ballpark figure for the kind of generic redistricting software, and then a ballpark figure for the more robust software that we might want?
I don't have it on me right now, but I can get it from the Esri. I can get it to the committee by this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Are we talking like $10,000 or $100,000, or what are we talking about?
No, I'd have to look and see. It's below that. I don't know the cost of it, but the full blown, it's just almost like an extension onto our existing JS software, and usually those extensions are not that costly.
Okay, I'll look forward to that information later. Thank you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tom, if you could get that to us and then send that video you said you had to all the committee members.
Yeah, it's a demonstration of the overall product and show you how it works, and I can send that to you all as well.
Okay. Perfect. And then what we're talking about, that's where we're having the issue of what do we do, because we've never done that. That's why we've talked about moving the primary back. You know, I don't think that's going to happen from what's going on in Springfield, but could we move the filing date back? Can we move the filing date? Usually it's right around Christmas. Can we move it back to the first week of January? That would give us time to, give us the rest of September and first week of October to, make sure those maps are okay. I mean, we have to pass a map by a certain date, right? I mean, if we can pass it later, but that's the problem. If I don't, can we amend the map?
And that's something that we're still exploring. Like I said, from the research I've done on it, things are still pretty unclear. I don't think anyone really had this particular circumstance in mind when they were writing laws.
So Chairman Zay, quick question. You've done this now, you said 2011 or 2001 to 2011. The census data has never been this late before.
No, we're drawing maps by now. I mean, that's usually what happens. I mean, it's not a problem. I mean, it's unfortunately, it's really an easy process if you have the data. If you don't have the data, now they're saying use this other data. This other data is not going to be here. You know, if we do a one-off ACS, does that open us up to people challenging? You know, because it says we're right. Because it says we're supposed to use the census data, but we're not. We're using an estimate, a survey. So again, I mean, that's part of the problem. We could be certain groups could feel that it's not correct and then sue the county on it. And then where are we at that point? You know,
theoretically, candidates would have the minimum number they're required to have for signatures, and then in theory they could get, you know, X percentage more than that.
Right. I mean, I don't think those numbers would change. I mean, it's usually a percentage off the presidential. I think that's what those numbers usually are.
My recollection is that it's a percentage off of either the presidential or the gubernatorial.
Oh, it might be the gubernatorial because of this time. Yeah.
Okay.
Depending what the most recent statewide candidacy was.
Statewide candidacy.
Statewide. Well, no, gubernatorial will be the same time as us. So it would have to
We
be
should draw a
presidential.
map without the census according to the statute, because the statute doesn't mandate the census. Is that correct?
Statute does not require explicitly that it be census numbers.
So we could go with a different formula and go with that. To me, you know, if it's time is of the essence, then the exactness of the census is less imperative than getting everything done. If we're not violating any state statute, maybe that's a direction to consider.
I think that's what committee said last time. We can't sit and wait. We have to actually draw something and start looking. I mean, my intention were to put the 6 districts up right now and see whatever data we have, what it looks like. So we know what all the districts look like. And then we have a place to go where we know if District 5's had a lot of growth and District 1 and District 6 up north haven't, you know, we know there'll be a shifting, you know, at that point. So it gives us a good starting point to go. So maybe we can talk with Tom, and if he gets that information, that'll give us a good basis to start. And then maybe we can, I mean, this could be hypothetically, we could draw the maps ourselves and then have this firm affirm what we're drawing is legal, right? I mean, it's basically it. Yeah. So, okay. So is everybody okay with going out?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an RFP or we're asking for, I mean,
Just say an RFQ.
RFQ, yeah. Request for qualifications, yeah, something like that we can go out and let's make sure we get, again, it's very specialized. And again, I don't want to have like somebody say, yeah, I think we can do it. It's our first time. And that leaves us open to lawsuit and everything else. I mean, we want it done right. I mean, I think we're all in agreement. We want it done right. We want to be transparent. We want to make sure it's whatever we're doing, we know number is the best process. Member Chavez?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you for regrouping on this. I know that when we had additional information, we regrouped, and I appreciate your openness to relook at a new candidate for this. In the process, because I know we're in a time crunch, I've done a little bit of vetting out there, and I found someone that's been involved in drawing the maps and redistricting from 1980, 1990, 2000, and 2010. So they've actually gone through 4 cycles. Is it the best thing for me to do to get that person's name and qualifications to Jason? Is that what we're saying the process is? I just want to be clear.
Yes, please. If you know somebody, please get Jason's information, and Jason can forward it to myself and the rest of the committee members, so we kind of know what's going on. Okay. Again, I want it all to be up and up. I want everybody to know what's going on. I don't want anybody to say, hey, who's this person, where'd they come from, whatever. I want everybody to know what's going on. So,
well, and I think I appreciate that. And I think this was new information that we received. So thank you for, you know, like I said, shifting gears on this. I know it's uncomfortable, but once we get new information about someone and there was a discomfort level, and I appreciate you taking that and then making action right away. So thank you.
No problem. Member Kajewski.
Thank you, Chairman. You know, I went through the process 10 years ago in 2001. And my understanding is, based on what we heard from Mr. Lukihan's last meeting, that the law has changed since then. And, you know, back when we did it 10 years ago, each district had to be precise within 1 person of each other. So we were literally at the end, we had the districts kind of close, but we were just, you know, we moved a line slightly and then you're off 3 or 4 people. My understanding now, at least what was told, we can do districts now that they got to be within 10%. So I think the number they used was 100,000. You could be at, 92.
I think they substantially have to be close. So I mean,
right. He said 10, but he said 10%, and which is a big variance. So I guess the question, it's more of what we got to decide as a board. Do we want them almost identical, or if there's a 10% fluctuation, are we going to keep them similar to what they are currently? If population swung and one district's got 5,000 more than another, that's fine under the new law, it appears, from at least what I was told last meeting, versus when we had to do it identical. So I guess that's something, we have to discuss as a board. If we have a 10% leeway now between districts, where before we didn't, it was exact, one person. So
yeah, just to respond to that, I think we want substantially close. I don't think you want one district with 5,000 more than the other district. I mean, if we can get within, we can come up with a number within 1,000 of each, if it works that way.
Or 2% or
something like that. Something that we could be, I mean, you don't want one district with 5,000 more than another district, and then, it will be on the mapping how you can do that. I mean, again, like last time, because it was so crazy, I mean, I have a cul-de-sac, I have half of a cul-de-sac. I mean,
well, last time we had to be within one person. Each district had to be exactly identical. So you could be off one person based on odd or even, but now we have a big fluctuation. I don't care. That's something we have to decide how close we want the districts.
Some more discretion on what we get before.
Right. I think that's when we start drawing, I think the committee can come to an agreement on what
we could agree to 2% of 950,000 or something along that.
Yeah, I mean, they should substantially be the same, and we don't want, like 5,000 seems to be a big number, or 10% seems to be I mean, last time I think it was with 165,000. I mean, you don't want 10%. That's a lot.
Yeah. I think when we see the map,
we see the map of you. We don't want to be cutting apartment complexes in half. I mean, we want to do it. We want to make it. We'd like to be contiguous to roads and stuff. We don't want to have, again, half of cul-de-sacs and half of other things. I mean, I think that will be our goal, to make it as contiguous as possible. And with that loosening, I think it'll be a lot easier. Sensible. Great word. Member Chester.
Connor, do you agree with the comment that was made last time that the 10%, that's statutory? And if you could send us a copy of that statute, I'd like to see that, and when it was changed, to see if we maybe get some background as far as what other elections have done under that new statute.
So I think I understand there's 3 questions in your statement. The first is, okay. The first is, I can get you a copy of the statute that was altered to make it substantially similar versus basically within one person. Second, with regards to the 5 to 10%, that's not a statutory thing. That's been defined by case law at the federal, state, and not so much local level, but mostly federal and state case law. I would point out that it's 5% or 10%, however you want to look at it, 5% under, 5% over, from the highest to the lowest point, is a benchmark, but it's by no means a safe haven. There have been, I'm aware of at least one indication where a court says, well, we use the benchmark of I think in some places it was like an 18% swing or something like that. They said, just because we said 18% before, doesn't mean that in this instance, 18% is acceptable. A lot of it is very fact-based, very nuanced, and everything else, which is one of the concerns I think Mr. Lukahans and I had about the ACS data, because there's an error rate there that is, as I think Phil said, can be very significant. And if the data is only, your product, your end product here is only as good as the data you use to create it. So if you have data that is incomplete, then you would be having data, an outcome that is incomplete that may be subject to challenge. I believe I read in Capital Facts maybe last week sometime, that there are some groups saying that using the ACS data will guarantee a challenge from that group to draw the districts, but I believe that's on the state level.
Is there a case law on this from the Illinois Supreme Court or second district? Can you give those sites and the statute?
I can look for the state level one. I can tell you I'm aware of one case from St. Clair County. I think it was back in either 1990 or 2000, where they were forced to redraw their county board district maps.
Okay. So, any other questions? So, again, thank you. We might have to be meeting more to get some of this stuff done, but I want to thank Tom. I think you gave us some really good information. I appreciate that.
Real quick, I just looked up the cost for the redistricting per seat is $4,500. So 4,500 for one seat. So determine how many seats we need. Right now, I would just say a minimum of one seat, but if we need to get another one for editing purposes, that's the cost that I'm looking at.
Okay, that's good to know. Again, that I think that was one of our questions I sent Jason. Do you have the software to do mapping? If they don't, then they might not automatically disqualify them because we have the mapping software to do it. So, okay, that's good. Any other questions? Any old business? Any new business? Okay, without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.